Alright, first to know the goods market, we must know how they spend. So C plus I plus G. So this is the most basic version. Everything, all the coefficient is 0 except, okay, C1 is positive, T bar is positive. So you cannot assume C1 0. If you assume C1 0, the entire model cannot work. Right, but you can assume B1, B2, G1, G2, T1, as well as T2, 0. So the economy, right, will actually tell us the consumption function is still C0 plus C1, Y minus T bar. So consumption will still have C1, but the tax that we pay is only lump sum. But firms only have I bar, government spending only G bar. So this is a very simplified version, and later on you could see I will change the model along the way. So you add up the three components, and this is what I usually do. It's very, very intentional. I will always group the fixed spending together. Right? I will look at each of them, which of them are constant, which is C0, T bar, I bar, and G bar. But be very careful when you deal with your C bar, it's C1 T bar with a minus sign. Be careful. A lot of times students happily like to put this. Right? Because they only remember add C, I, and G, so they go and add everything together. They say, oh, constant, let's add on. Which is conceptually unsound. Right? First, taxes should reduce your spending ability, so you should have a minus. Okay? And how much taxes affect consumption is by C1. That's why your C1 cannot be 0. If your C1 is 0, you've got nothing to discuss already. Alright? C1 is always a key component. So in this case, you add your C, I, and G, you group all the constant together. Okay? And this is quite cumbersome to write. So eventually, we will write this as A bar. Right? We call this the sum of autonomous spending. So we will write one time in our answer. Subsequently, we will call them A bar for convenience. Then you are left with your C1Y. Remember, look at your consumption function. There is still a C1Y. Don't drop it. So in other words, if you want to draw the AE curve, right, with AE on the vertical axis, income and output on the horizontal axis, we can see how does AE or AD change. It's not fixed. Every time income goes up, you will expect your AD, right, which is your Z, known as your AE, it will change accordingly. Okay, right? So from here you can see the same method that I have been teaching you. Draw the axis, compare to the equation. So the equation is in the correct format that we can tell the slope is C1. Alright, always look at the horizontal axis and look at the coefficient in front of it. Okay, so in this case, this is your MPC. So C1 is important. You cannot let C1 be 0. If you have C1 is 0, you've got nothing to draw. You see? C1 can never be 0. So you must let C1 be positive, telling us, therefore, AE curve, the line will be steeper when C1 increases. Conversely, AE will be flatter when C1 drops. Example, China. Alright, so we will expect, when we draw this AE curve, and if I'm drawing the case of China, I will actually draw a flatter AE for her. Because we know in China, C1 is very low. Alright, the Chinese have a very high tendency to save. Their C1 is only like 0.3 or lesser. Therefore, translating to the AE curve, it is flatter. So I don't memorize, right? I actually remember my CI and G. I construct the equation. I look at intercept and slope, and I discuss the slope. Okay, then the vertical intercept, okay, would be our A bar, or you can write it as C0 minus C1 T bar plus I bar and your G bar. So why do we need to know vertical intercept? Because it's a very convenient way to tell us who will shift the AE. Right? So in this case, the AE will shift up. Okay, means AE will increase. Right? When your C naught, your I bar, and your G bar goes up. And it must be logical, right? More spending because household, firms, and government plan to spend more. They are optimistic. Government wants to promote growth. They all increase. Or T bar drops. Government must cut lump sum taxes. Okay? And conversely, AE will shift down, means AE drop. Okay? When you raise your lump sum tax, or there is drop in C naught, I bar, and G bar. And this example is Thailand. Okay? In the current protest. Right, so the current protest in Thailand is a little bit, right, drawing the confidence of household and firms. They look like the situation will not end. It's always red and yellow, right? They like take turns one. Every 2-3 years they take turns. So people got very bored with them. Like, when will it end? Then people are not confident in the country. Autonomous spending will drop. People will say, maybe I shouldn't stay in Thailand for too long, especially firms. Right? If each time there was closure of roads, workers go on demonstration because they are not coming to the factory, then why would I base myself in Thailand? I don't. So if this were to persist, C naught and I bar can drop. Okay, it's taking too long already, and in this case, AE curve will shift down. Alright, okay, so very quickly, let's sketch in AE. Right? Okay, you can see that your AE curve, the intercept is A bar. Right, so put in the zero axis is clear. In the economy, if households don't have income, firms don't have income, we still need to spend A bar. Alright, okay? Then in this case, you could see as your AE, as your income increases, okay, your AE also goes up. So you can go from, say, point A to point B. Increase in income. Why did it increase AE? Alright? Why increase? Is because C1Y goes up. Alright? In other words, consumption goes up, AE goes up. Point A to B. So income will play a role to shape the AE. And what was the critical element? The critical element was C1Y. That's why C1 is very important to a country, and that's why China wants to change her C1. She wants the Chinese to save less. Then you can have a bigger movement, alright? Or in fact, a bigger change in your AE. So you go from A to B, then of course we know the slope here is C1. Okay, so we're going to take a break from here. Alright, now this is what we'll do. We'll do 5 minutes. So between now to 1:40, you either do the exercise now, then you go for a break, or vice versa. Okay, so we're going to just do B1 for me, will do. Alright, so now if B1 is positive, the hints that I will give you, investment now is I bar plus B1Y. I want you to find for me the new AE prime, compare the vertical intercept and slope. Okay, so it's between now to 1:40. You can do it now, go for a break, or vice versa. Okay, and those of you who are fast enough, you can do part 2. Okay, so I'll see you back here in 20 minutes.